So this part of the course from 7 Secrets of Fundraising, DMC Consultancy, is about the grant application. This is obviously we're carrying on with the free workshop on fundraising, and this bit is about project fundraising, grant applications. And what I've done, you'll see that you should download you can see this is you can download this form, this sort of template. I call it project fundraising grant application preparation form. And what I'll do, I'll take you through it. And what this does, it really just gives you a chance to prepare to answer the questions that you find on almost every grant application form. And even if you have to write in a sort of free-flowing bid, it's the stuff you need to put in it, because there are some applications that don't give you a standard form. They ask you to write out, just sort of write a proposal, like prose basically. And in a sense, all this is the stuff you need to put in there. So what I'll do, I'll just walk you through it. Well, I'll sort of rush through it, and it's a really useful tool. So something you can prepare for every single project and every grant application you're going to put in, and also for every other fundraising project. You can do it if you're doing event fundraising. You can use the same template to kind of prepare what you are going to do, and it goes with the infographic. So you've got the infographic which tells you about different types of fundraising, the fundraising cycle, and even gives you that. If you download the interactive PDF, you'll see all those links that go to all these places where you can get funding from. Okay, never ending. So some great resources here. So on page 1 of the form, it's about your organisation. In a sense, you divide the whole grant application. There's a set about the organisation, there's a set about the project, there's a set about the personnel and so on, and a set about the budget. So those are, in a sense, your headlines when it comes to grant applications. Type of organisation are you? It starts with, you might be a limited company, a CIC, some other incorporated body. You'll have some kind of registration number, so stick that in. If it's not clear, then stick in who you're registered with. If it may not be clear, you can say registered with the Charity Commission or registered with, such and such a body. So put all that in. So it's about your organisation, the date you were formed. These are questions that come up all the time, so you should have them ready for every kind of grant application and every type of funding. Purpose means what you were set up for officially. Yeah. What it says these days, I know in the UK, the memorandum of association used to say very specifically the objects, but now it's a bit, it's just general. So if you have any kind of constitution, perhaps your articles of association, it's what you were set up to do. And then your current and recent activities. So it's like what you were set up to do and what you've actually been doing. And remember that a lot of grant funding is about new projects. It's about doing additional to what you normally do. Okay, so they want to know what you're set up for and what how you deliver that at the moment. What are you doing at the moment? Key personnel. Who are the key people involved in your organisation? You may not have to put all these details in, but most of the time these are the questions they ask. Who's the top person? The sort of CEO, chief director, whatever. Who's the top people in your organisation? Key people. And it's worth having those names anyway and being clear what they do. Accounting details in terms of when are your accounts made up to, your financial report, when was the last one done, and of course the details of it. Both the full, have a copy of it, and also have a summary of it that you can put here. In our last financial year, we made such and such an amount. Supporters and endorsers, people who will support your project that you're going to do. So have them in advance, whether they're called for or not. Have people who say, yeah, we support them, we're supportive of the organisation in general, and we support the project they're putting forward. So that's the first bit about your organisation, just being clear. And obviously you have to have things like name, address, telephone number, emails. Yeah, that goes without saying. And physical addresses. So then you turn on page 2, which is now about your project. So again, this is just a template. If you're going to put a grant application in, I'm just sort of summarising for you the things you need to think about and have prepared. Your project title, start date and duration. You have to be clear. Different bodies, some people have a 1 year maximum for a project, or has to finish by a certain date because of their own cycle. So have a start date of the project and a duration, and make sure the start date is not tomorrow and you put in a bid in today, because you have to be aware that they may take 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 4 months to get around to it. So make sure, you know, if you send it in today and say it's starting tomorrow, they'll ignore it because, well, we can't do it. So make sure it's flexible, and they know it's flexible. Beneficiaries key now. Again, look at the fundraising cycle. Who is actually going to benefit from this project? You know, big people, small people, young people, old people, black people, white people, able-bodied people, disabled people. You know, whatever way you classify people. If there's a way of classifying people in this area, people in that area, people who don't do this, people who do that, people who have this, people who don't have that. Whatever way how have you defined your beneficiaries, and what's the problem being tackled? So you're tackling poor people living in area X. Problem being tackled, you know, poverty, is that the problem? How are you going to do it? By giving away money? Well, whatever. So the activities and methodologies, how you're going to do it. So you've got the beneficiaries, you've got the problem being tackled. Now how are you going to what are you actually going to do? Oh, you're going to do this. This is what the things you're going to do. And what will happen? The outcomes, what will happen? Now that you've done it, what will happen? Well, people will be taken out of the poverty trap. You know, people will find jobs and get themselves out of the poverty trap. People have more confidence, and therefore, whatever the outcomes will be. And then I've got here proofs. A big one that people forget. You have to prove everything. So, how do you know that you've got the beneficiaries? One, you know, how do you know they're there? How do you know the problem exists? Reports, government statistics, whatever going on. The methodology, what you're going to do, how do you know it benefits? How do you know that actually tackles that problem? Because it's been done before. Show where. Outcomes, and how do you know this happens again? Because there's proof, you know, there's reports that say this helps that situation. That doing this helps overcome that. Weird, it sounds a bit not as clear as it could be. So the problem being the beneficiaries, the problem being tackled, how you're going, what you're actually going to do, what the benefits will be, and then some backup for all of that. Any kind of proof, reports, even particularly the people who you're looking funding from, they may have done some reports as well. So look at what research they have sponsored and published as well. So that's your proofs. And your outputs. Outputs here are about, you know, what are you going to leave behind? A video, you know, a website. What are the things, the actual things, a book, a DVD, what's going to actually output, what's going to be left behind after the project that people can take or tangibly use or something. So those are your outputs. So list all of those. In some funders, they like to see the community involvement. So, okay, who says you're not just foisting this on people? Who says the actual community wants what you're offering? Because people do that quite a lot of the time. We're bringing you this. And people think, well, if you'd only asked us, we'd have told you we don't want that, we want something else. You know, you're bringing us a bus shelter for our, you know, but we want a playground for the children, whatever it is. Right? So community involvement, they want to see that you've consulted with the community, and you're actually representing what the community want to see as well. What the beneficiaries, what the people you've highlighted and the people in the community, what they want. So you have to demonstrate how you've done that. And this will be from your own research as well as holding consultations, your own observations. If you're part of that community, you know, you can compile a wealth of evidence, you know, feedback from other surveys, feedback from other events, and so on and so forth. And then it's expenditure. The question is, what are you going to use the money for? So there's a summary of what you're going to use the money for. We're going to use the money for training events, venue hire, you know, and buying a computer. They're the headlines. But then you need to have a full budget, of course. what you're going to spend it on. Even if there's no room in the application form, make sure you have a full budget when it's asked for. And when I say a full budget, I mean broken down. If you're going to use, if venue hire is £1,000, then say it's £100 a day, but times 10 days. Break it down like that. If you're paying for trainers, break it down. Even if you don't have to put it on the application form because the room is small. So yeah. So make sure you do that. And then I've got jobs and roles there. As in, one, it's who's going to do what you're who's going to do the work, which is the key thing. Who's actually going to deliver? Who's going to manage the project? Who's going to deliver? This may be internal staff and volunteers. It may be external staff, professionals, trainers, outside trainers and consultants. It may be. So make it clear who's going to deliver, or what the jobs are, and make sure you have a job specification. Even if you don't have to supply it right at the beginning, have a clear job specification. And in a sense, once you've got all that together, you want to include as much of this in your summary. If they say, well, you've got 500 words to say what your project's going to do, you want to be able to clearly say that our project will benefit poor people living in such an area, suffering from malnutrition, and we are going to tackle it by having a food kitchen that will provide food and reduce hunger. And we have proof because the government said this is a poor area and that food kitchens help people. And this other report says the benefits of food kitchens, and we quote from page 297. And we will leave behind, there will be, the infrastructure will be built which can be used by other people, not just ourselves. That's the output. So you've gone right through everything. So you've gone right through the beneficiaries, the problem being tackled, what you're going to do, the outcomes, the proofs, the outputs. And we know this is necessary because we've talked to people in the community who've come to our training days or our opening days or use our nursery, and they've said the number one thing they want in the community is a soup kitchen. Bam, you've got that. And then who's going to deliver? We've got nutritionists, we've got chefs, we've got whatever you name the people and the roles. And you also want to make it because you want it to be seen as sustainable. And that's it. So I'm saying use all that, have that all prepared, and you'll probably be able to work your way through any fundraising grant application, bid with all that information. So hope that helps. So it said, so download the form and just do it. And I suggest doing it for every type of fundraising activity you're going to get involved with in every fundraising project.